So, yeah, just making sure that I'm live and then I can see everybody, that you can see me. Uh, okay, cool. Yeah, make sure I can see myself. Facebook app is acting kind of funny, taking its sweet time on things. So, everybody tuning in, greetings and salutations. Thank you for joining me. Make sure I can see myself. And I'm going to just share this to my personal page real quick. I see wifey's on with me. Beautiful. So, for those of you just tuning in, greetings. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you. And we're going to get started in just a second. Just want to make sure, give folks a second who want to tune in live with us to tune in. And then we will get started on this live. And this time I have like a couple notes. Trying to be more concise, you know. I can be a bit long-winded. So I'm trying to be concise. There's a lot of good information, but you know, try to be a bit more organized, something I've been working on. Okay, so before I begin, if there's anybody out there who cannot see me or hear me or anything like that, let me know. Give me a thumbs up, and I will accommodate you. Okay, so looks like people. Wifey, can you hear me? Everything sounding okay? Okay. So the title of this well, before even that, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Billy Miles, and myself alongside my wife Monica Kay are the co-directors of a dance company called Keys on Harmony. Okay, cool. Thanks, Jay Berg. So myself, Billy, and my wife Monica, we are the co-directors of a dance company called Keys on Harmony that is based in Houston, Texas, although our platform is now international. So just for an introduction for those who don't know who we are. Wifey's here, but she's just not in the video. But she's on the chat too. So the purpose of this video, a lot of the things, a big part of our platform as Keys on Harmony is community building, right? Community building in the sense of building a healthy, unified, diverse community and industry. And everything that we do and say, we make sure that jibes with our overall mission, right? So from time to time, and recently there's been a lot to talk about, I'll go and do these lives to talk about issues facing the community. And so the title of today's video is Honesty, Authenticity, and Perspective in the Dance Community. And what brought this on is recently I had a conversation with someone in the dance community. I'm not going to say who for reasons in a second, but the conversation kind of went like, "Hey, how are you doing?" This is someone I hadn't really interacted with much before, so got a message, and then this person asked me a question. Right, this person said, "Do you mind if I ask you a personal question?" And I was like, okay, like, were you going to ask me something weird about my marriage or something? Like, But I said, sure. I always say, if anybody wants to talk to me, hit me up. My inbox is open so long as you come at me respectfully. And this was the question. The question was, Billy, why does everybody hate you? And I couldn't help but laugh, It was just the because you got to understand, I'm used to being talked about, but I'm not used to people actually talking to me, right? About stuff like this. So I was tickled. And, my answer was, and we ended up having a great conversation. But it made me think about a couple things, because if you are someone who supports our vision, then you probably like me, you respect me, you probably think pretty highly of me. But what I told this person is, my wife and I, we are people who set standards. We set standards, right, Carmen? We are people who set standards on and off the dance floor. I mean, everything from how we do business, how we train, who we learn from, who we work with, the way that I treat my partner, right? Everything from that to our advocacy on issues facing the community, rape culture, black women being marginalized, women in general being marginalized. We set standards. And like anybody who sets standards, you're never really going to be popular with people who either can't or won't meet the standards that you set, right? So if you're someone who supports our vision and appreciates what we stand for, you're going to think that we're awesome, right? But if you're someone in a location or in a group where people who resent our vision or feel threatened by us hold sway, then yeah, it's probably going to seem like everybody hates us. And that's why, it inspired me to make this video about honesty, authenticity, and perspective. Especially because, again, this made me realize that there are a lot of people out there. And again, my perspective as someone who's been very outspoken and someone who's a teacher, organizer, DJ, teacher trainer, DJ trainer, who's very active as far as the as a leader or someone who has as a business, does this as a business, I see things that most people, if you're not in the same position as me, you wouldn't have the same perspective as me. On the other hand, though, because very few of the people who actually trash me do it where I can see it and respond for reasons I'll get into in a little bit. If you're in one of those places that is under the influence of some sort of toxic influence, usually probably someone who I've criticized or made feel threatened, then it's going to feel like everybody hates me. And you probably heard all types of manner of stuff. I don't even know half the stuff that's been said about me up to this point, and I don't really care that much. Now, of course, if you've heard something and you want to ask me, you can ask me privately, not on this live, but you can ask me. Appreciate you, man. You're awesome too. You can ask me privately. But anyway, so we had a long conversation, and it was really great. And the reason that I'm not going to name this person is because there's a history of people who vocally show support for us or treat us with kindness or anything that aligns themselves with us will often have our haters in their inbox talking trash, and they sometimes become a target, right? And I'm used to being a target because I've always been outspoken, and I knew what I was getting into setting the standards that we set, right? I knew it was going to make me unpopular. I knew people were going to try to attack us, stuff like this. But for a lot of people who either didn't sign up for this or aren't prepared, that can be a problem. So I don't want to harm someone who's being friendly or supportive by naming them. So that's why I'm not going to say it. But this conversation was very inspiring. So if you're watching this, you know who you are. Thanks for reaching out and talking to me instead of about me. And yeah, this one you inspired. So basically in this video, I'm going to talk about the different perspectives. I'm going to talk about dishonesty and authenticity in the dance community. And then I'm going to address some of the things that people have said about me and about us, so that those of you out there who don't know me personally, and maybe you're someone who's surrounded by my haters, then maybe I can give you something and allow you to think for yourself a little bit instead of swallowing lies that you've probably been fed by people who try to attack us because they feel threatened by us, right? So, yeah, I got my little notes here so that I don't go too far. Okay, so first, to understand a little bit about me, a little bit about my history. I feel you, Janine. I am someone who from a young age has had a very strong sense of honor, right? Part of this is because, maybe it's because when I was growing up, I didn't often have a lot of male role models that looked like me who I saw or interacted with on a daily basis. And so what I did was I kind of created my own role model, my own sense of what it means to be a man. And part of it was, pieced together from books that I read. For those who don't know, I'm a big epic fantasy guy. I'm big into epic fantasy. For those who don't know, that's things like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time, things like this. And a common theme in a lot of these stories are people who grow to be strong and protect others and stand up for what's right. And these kind of themes, honor, doing the right thing, being strong, not to take advantage or misuse people, but to protect people and stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. These ideals were ingrained in me from a very young age. Okay. So I created, because I didn't see, and recently Barack Obama became one of my role models, not just on because of the politics, but because of who he is as a man, a family man. And recently my wife said, it's the best thing ever. She said she feels like I'm the Barack Obama of Kizomba. And I don't know if she's ever said anything nicer to me. And I just wanted to share that with you guys because it was very special to me. But it also goes to show you that one person can love you and think you're an honorable, good person, and other people can demonize you, right? Even if it's unfairly. And it all depends on your perspective, how you feel about somebody, right? So anyway, but yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, I created my own ideal of what it means to be a man, to be a good man. And some of the things that I guess are part of this ideal, a good man is honest, right? A good man is accountable. A good man tries to do the right thing. A good man is humble, right? But also confident. So things like this from a young age always resonated with me. And especially the idea of being honorable and honest. And so even from a young age, I hated dishonesty. I hated fakeness. I hated being deceptive. Even sometimes, and you can even ask my mom, when somebody will call, and I know a lot of you who obviously, probably all of you have had to do this, somebody will call the house and your parents don't want to talk to them for whatever reason. Maybe they talk too much or they're annoying or whatever. And they say, hey, tell them I'm not home. Tell them I'm not home. I hated that. I hated that because it was dishonest. Now I did it because I didn't want to catch an ass whooping, but I didn't like it. So from a young age, I have hated dishonesty. Now that doesn't mean I've never been dishonest before, but it always rankles with me and I feel bad. Even sometimes when it's like little white lies here and there, I don't like doing it very often, right? So I say this because one of the things that's been said about me is that I'm a liar. Now again, if you know me, even if you don't even know me that well, you'd understand how ridiculous that is. But again, for a lot of reasons, people can say whatever and people will believe it. So for those who want to kind of get to know me a little better, this is something to understand about me. I've always had this strong code of honor, okay, ever since I was young. And being honest and authentic is something that's always been important to me. It's something that I've worked on for most of my life. Now, authenticity is something that a lot of people struggle with and for a lot of reasons, right? There's like this trend of, I used to call it fake positivity, but somebody else called it toxic positivity. And I think it's spot on. And basically toxic positivity is the people who are like, good vibes only, I only deal with the positive. I only look at the positive. And anything else is considered negative or bad, right? But what happens is when you have this sort of toxic positivity, you never acknowledge anything that you find inconvenient. If you engage in harmful behavior and people call you out on it, your response is, look, good vibes only over here, man. I don't have any time for your negativity, right? It creates a culture where it's more negative to call out bad behavior than it is to actually engage in the bad behavior, right? And this is why I've for a long time, I've said, positivity is not the goal here of a healthy community. Authenticity is, because you have to acknowledge the negative if you're going to fight it, right? If you look the other way or refuse to acknowledge the negative, all you do is enable it. You condone it, allow it to grow. That's what's happened in our dance community. You have to acknowledge the negative so that you can fight it, and then, of course, acknowledge the positive so that you can help it grow, right? But you can't do that if you look the other way, this toxic positivity stuff. And so be careful about those people who will say, left and right, oh, they're so negative, I'm just positive vibes only, while they're going and hurting other people, right? You can go punch somebody in the face, and then somebody says, hey, you shouldn't be punching people in the face. Hey, man, look, you're ruining my vibes here. Don't kill my vibes. Good vibes only. Quit being so negative. And when we first started criticizing things in the dance community, this is what people said about us. Oh, you guys are all doom and gloom. You're trying to destroy the Kizomba community, blah, blah, blah. Now, a lot of the stuff that we were saying in 2015 and 2016, now it's becoming clear that we were right. And there are a lot of people out there who are feeling some kind of way, right? But I'm digressing. So yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves is dishonesty and inauthenticity. I hate fakeness. Right? I hate it. I hate it when people don't show you who they really are. I'd rather deal with someone who's abrasive and honest than someone who pretends to be a good person and then stabs you in the back. And there are a lot of people like that in the dance community, especially in positions of influence. And I'm going to talk about that in a second too. So yeah. So I've often said that we won't ever have a truly unified, healthy community where the people in positions of influence don't desire that, right? And I said this 2015, 2016. The fact of the matter is, many, if not most of the people in positions of influence don't want that. Why? Because many of them only want, they're only really interested in their own self-interest, okay? They're opportunists. And basically, an opportunist is someone who all they care about is getting what they want at any given time, right? Now, I'm not saying that it's bad to take advantage of opportunities as they're presented, but the difference between an opportunist and someone who has other things like, integrity guiding their actions, someone who's a pure opportunist will do or say whatever to get what they want. They don't care who they hurt or who they harm. Yes, absolutely, Super Dixon. Lack of empathy. Yes, and that's what you're right with me here. The problem is a lot of people in positions of influence, they're opportunistic, they're selfish, they're insecure, and they lack empathy, right? And this is the problem. Wherever you see people like that in positions of influence, you will see drama. You will see lying. You will see shadiness. You will see disreputable behavior. You will see sexual misconduct, right? All of this. And this is because you have people who are insecure at their core, right? People who are confident and secure in themselves don't tend to try to harm or take down other people. People who understand and believe in their own worth, right? Because everybody has this desire to be important, to feel important, and to belong. Some people take that and they say, okay, I want to feel important and feel good. I'm going to build. You have builders. That is what my wife and I are. We are builders. For those of you who've been paying attention, you know what I'm talking about. Others are takers, right? So they're ruled by insecurity and scarcity mindset. So if they see something that makes them feel some kind of way, they want to take it, and if they can't take it, they want to destroy it, right? The scarcity mindset that comes from the insecurity of people who don't really see value in themselves, right? Maybe because they don't have as much talent as they would like to feel they do. Maybe it's because they want to be, king shit or queen shit, and somebody else is, coming up as a leader, and you want to attack them because you feel threatened. This has happened to us a lot. And another big thing is cognitive dissonance. Now, cognitive dissonance is basically when you have two opposing ideas, thoughts, or desires in your mind at the same time, right? So it's like the Aesop's fable with the fox and the grapes. The fox tried to get the grapes, and then he couldn't, so then he just tells himself, I didn't want the grapes anyway, right? That's one way to deal with something, right? You can't get something, so you besmirch it or you convince yourself you don't want it. What often happens with a lot of people in the dance community who are in positions of leadership, especially some of the more toxic ones, like the predators. And when I say predator, I'm not just talking about sexual predator. I'm talking about people who prey on others, right? But a lot of the predators, sexual or otherwise, are all they're all what I call toxic manipulators, right? They're very good. And I've talked about those tools, flattery, bribery, threats, projection, deflection, pity, gaslighting, all that stuff. Well, when you say, let's say you want to feel like you're a leader in the community, you want to feel like you're the king, but you don't necessarily want to do the stuff that a good leader would do, right? If you see somebody else actually embodying the things that you want to see in yourself, it makes you feel some dissonance, because I want to be king shit. Here's somebody else actually doing it. And so I feel some kind of way. I can't, these two conflicting ideas don't jive. So what am I going to do? I'm going to try to attack that person. I'm going to try to undermine them because I want to be king of the hill, right? And this is something that happened to me with someone who ended up actually being one of the most toxic predators who I've criticized for years. And I'm going to talk about a number of people, but again, in this video, I'm going to talk about certain behaviors, and it's going to seem like I'm only talking about one person, and I'm not. It's just the most toxic people have engaged in so many toxic behaviors that it's basically like any toxic behavior I talk about applies to some of these toxic people. That's how horrible they are. So yeah, so you got people ruled by insecurity, selfishness, opportunism, lack of integrity, and lack of empathy. You've got this cognitive dissonance of people who want to feel like they're here, but don't necessarily want to do the work to get there. So it's easier to take somebody else down to make yourself feel like you're here rather than to build yourself up. And this is something that has made the Kizomba community, but also the dance community. It's why we're not nearly where we could be. It's because the people currently in positions of influence, most of them, don't care about anything other than trying to take and hurt anyone who interferes with them taking what they want, period, right? Including other people's bodies for the sexual predators out there. And so all of these things combined also with the cliquish nature of certain aspects of our community and the groupthink, the FOMO, the need to fit in, the peer pressure, that makes it difficult for people to think for themselves, right? Because you have people in positions of influence who are not in the, and think about it, guys. The people who are currently, think about all the people who are currently in positions of influence in the dance community, not just Kizomba, but everywhere. How many of them are in the position they're in because of their great integrity, because of their selflessness, because of their good, great qualities? No. Most of the people who are in positions of influence now, it's just because of their popularity, maybe because of their dance talent, because they got into a space first, or because they threw under the bus people who were there before. That's it. Right? That's for most people, that's why they're in these positions of influence. So if you have a bunch of people who are leaders not because of their integrity, then that's what you get, right? The vibe of the leaders tends to trickle down to their communities, their cliques, their segments, right? So you have a bunch of little cliques and segments and groups here and there that are influenced by people who really don't care about anything other than getting their money up, getting their influence up, taking what they want when they want, and throwing anybody else under the bus by any means necessary, right? And this is why you will have even good and honorable people like us, not perfect, but good people, being demonized in certain segments because we've made, I often joke, it's not that we have a lot of haters. It's just that all of our haters are either organizers, DJs, instructors, or like people in positions of influence, right? We've triggered or made so many of them feel threatened over the years, and they all influence the people, right? They get their minions, right? And the minions are the people who blindly follow these toxic manipulators for whatever reason. And I might talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of how things stand. And that is why in 2020, we're still talking about sexual predators, and we're still talking about, black women being marginalized, when these are conversations, women being marginalized in general, when we're having these conversations now, when we've been talking about these things for years, when we have sexual predators who, people have been sharing stories for years now, but still operating. It's why we have people accuse rapists and predators presenting themselves as rape culture advocates and actually trying to present themselves as leaders, right? The king of predator reform coming from a predator, right? This is because this toxic enablement culture has created this environment where bad people feel like they can operate with impunity, right? And this is the problem. And it's a good thing that people are waking up right now, but it's sad that we even got to this point. And this is why. Now, that being said, there are a lot of reasons why people in these groups or whatever allow themselves to be influenced. And it's not just because they're just blind. Sometimes, it's you want to believe, or, people who you look up to for whatever reason, right? It could be because you think they're a great dancer or whatever. When you invest in someone financially, emotionally, whatever, you want to believe the best in them. You don't want to believe that they would lie to you or misuse you because you look up to them, right? But these toxic manipulators, and again, it's not just sexual predators. There are predators who are not necessarily, that I know of, sexual predators, but bad people. In fact, if you look at anywhere where there's like a critical mass of Kizomba Harmony haters, look where they live. And you will see one of these toxic manipulators right there in a position of influence. It's very easy to spot if you just take a second to look, right? And they're not all rapists or accused rapists or sexual predators. Some of them are just shady people who will throw anybody under the bus, lie about people, or do anything to compete, because they don't care about competing honorably. They'll compete dishonorably for maybe because talent alone won't cut it, or that's just, how they are. But this is a problem, right? This is the problem. And if all of us made it a point to do our own thinking, and again, I'm sharing my opinions based on my views and things like that, but I tell people the same, you don't have to take everything I say at face value either. I always say, do your own research. Now, if I'm talking about myself, I know myself better than most people, so I'm probably the best person to talk to about that, or maybe my mom, right? Right? She might know me better than I know myself because she raised me, obviously. But yeah, do your own research. Nobody's infallible, right? Nobody knows everything. But just because someone is a good dancer, or they seem like a good dancer to you, or is a talented organizer, or has a nice event, or is a good DJ, or has funny videos or whatever, cool videos, doesn't mean they're a good person, doesn't mean they're trustworthy, doesn't mean that they have your best interest at heart, right? And if everybody assimilates this and really puts it into practice, it'll be very easy to create the kind of healthy community that we want to see, not just in our sphere of influence, because we've already created the healthy community. We're just scaling it now. I would like to see other communities adopt the same thing, right? Because the more communities like this grow and scale, then we all connect, and now we have one big, huge community free of all kind of BS, yeah? So yeah, you've got these cliques, groups, sects influenced by unscrupulous opportunists and predators. And part of the reason why these toxic manipulators get away with it is because they're very good at wearing what I call wearing masks, right? And like I said, projection, deflection, flattery, bribery, intimidation, bullying, pity. They use all these tactics and more to create this persona or this bubble, right? Maybe it's a social media persona, and also with like kind of a persona they create amongst their followers. And a big one here, a big mask that people hide behind is culture. Okay, I've seen so many predatory, toxic people hide behind culture to try to deflect from their disrespectful behavior, sexual misconduct, all manner of toxicity in the name of defending culture, right? As an example, the Angolan who disrespected my wife and almost caught these hands because of it, known to be a toxic, disrespectful, bad person, right? It's always talking about protecting the culture, right? and alongside their cronies, and you can see all of them. I mean, if you pay attention, you see like the savages and all these people. They're always hiding behind culture to justify their toxic behavior, right? And then you'll have other people who will back them up, who will enable and condone them. And this is a problem. Now, why do they do it? I guess culture is like the magic word for people, because especially if you for dancers, especially, and this is often especially for black dancers or for dancers who are trying to find or have that connection to Africa, right? Or to the culture. And for Kizomba, it's Africa. For another dance, maybe it'll be whatever. But there are a lot of people out there who want to feel that connection so bad that they'll overlook any manner of toxic behavior just to feel a connection, right? So you have people supporting and enabling people who outside of Kizomba would never give them the time of day or listen to them or put up with any of their crap. But if you say culture, oh, well, that's just how they are, right? And it's wrong. It is wrong. Culture is not an excuse to disrespect anyone, to behave dishonorably, to engage in sexual misconduct, including but not limited to rape, sexual assault. It's not an excuse for people trying to gaslight. And again, some of these predators out there have tried to insinuate that this is an African men thing, right? And this is another thing. Like this, you throwing a whole continent under the bus because you can't control yourself, and this is a problem. Okay, this is not an African man thing or a pal-up thing or a cult. No, it's an individual thing. It's people who don't care or don't understand consent. Yes, and that's the other thing. People who are always talking, and I say this all the time, and this is one of the reasons why, and I'll talk about this in a second, we became unpopular with certain groups, is because we were critical of pal-ops who were hypocrites. You claim to be protecting or defending your culture, but you're disrespecting people left and right. And then you turn around and bitch and moan and whine about people disrespecting your culture. How can you expect somebody to respect you when you don't respect anybody else, right? And that's why I have issues with the Angolan who disrespected my wife, who's not really a teacher, but more of like a kind of like takes other people's work and puts it into like a thing, which could maybe add value if it didn't come with all the toxicity, right? But this is the problem. But you'll have other people who are Palop or Angolan or people who are just of a mind to, again, like I said, want to feel such a connection to the culture that they'll enable this foolishness just so they can feel close to the culture, right? I see people, even people who we work with, who are friends with, enabling and supporting people like this, and it's wrong, right? It's wrong. And, it's not just the people who are toxic who are the issue here. It's also the people who enable them. So anyone trying to talk about culture, if you're enabling, supporting, condoning, or working with people who are known to be disrespectful or predatory, then you're a hypocrite and you're a part of the problem, and you're bringing your own culture down, and you have nobody but yourself to blame when people start to look at you the way they look at these predators, the way they look at these jerks. Wrong is wrong. And this enablement culture needs to stop. So yeah, like I probably just did, because we've been so outspoken, we've criticized instructors who don't take the time to learn. We've criticized people who do things that divide the community. We've criticized predators. We've criticized people who compete dishonorably. And, we knew what we were getting into because, again, I don't want to trigger too many people, but just so let's say a healthy amount of people who are organizers, teachers, DJs, or whatever have been complicit in enabling some of the stuff that I've criticized. Most of them have been complicit or engaged in it themselves, or they've been influenced by someone who has and therefore doesn't like us, right? So again, I've been critical, but also here's another thing. We've never been a part of any of these groups, right? So some of the people, they want to be the gatekeepers, right? Especially the people who've been most disrespectful to us. They want to be seen, they want to be the gatekeepers to the culture or the gatekeepers to Kizomba. They want people to go through them or kiss the ring or whatever. And we were never a part of any of their groups, but we managed to actually become a success and become respected instructors and teacher trainers without doing so, right? So this is another thing, right? It's like you have a group of people who think they're going to be kings of the mountain. They look at us, oh, look at these French style dancers, haha, whatever, they're never going to do anything. Then we start, going back to the basics, learning Samba, learning Afro, getting our stuff. And there was a change, right? There was a change when we won, or when we made it to the international finals of Africa Dancehall, right? Something that only 2 American couples have ever done, right? So a lot of the people who were talking trash about us and looking down on us, now we've accomplished something that none of them have accomplished, right? So now instead of laughing at us, now people started to feel threatened. They started to feel some kind of way. The energy really started to change. And also around this time, we started being seen as thought leaders, started writing blogs and speaking out. And people who at one point were friendly, once we started being seen as thought leaders, and this one, especially one of the predators I've criticized, then started to attack us, to hurt our credibility and try to push us down to lift someone who had been kissing the ring up, right? And I'll talk about this more in a second, because this is really insidious, toxic behavior. But yeah, piqued the insecurities of a lot of people. There are a lot of people who can't compete on talent or don't want to, right? And so they resort to shady stuff to compete. There are different types of leadership styles. For instance, a lot of people want to be seen as leaders. They want the trappings. They want the good the good feelings of the community. They want the regard. There we go. They want the regard of the community. They want to be seen as like leaders and respected, but they don't do anything that real leaders do. Me, on the other hand, I never really cared about being seen as a leader. I speak my truth. I stand up for what I believe in. I back it up. I'm consistent. I set a good example. People out there have been inspired by this. And so people start following us, things like that. But I've never been out there trying to put myself as a leader above other people. In fact, a big part of our platform and why we created, for instance, the Kizomba Unity Group, feel free to join, is because I want to empower other leaders. And that is exactly what we've done over the years. And if you talk to some of the people who we've talked to, sometimes it's behind the scenes, right? We seek to empower other people, not to manipulate them, right? We don't want to put people under us and keep them under us like some of these manipulators do. We want people to grow. We want people to become leaders in their own right, because that's the only way to create this healthy community. The only way to create an industry is when you have a lot of talented professionals who have integrity, provide a good product. That's the only way to build an industry that will create trust in people who actually have options in what they want to do, right? And this is important because when I address the lies that people have said about us, this is going to come more into effect. So yeah, people who resent others who are leaders but don't act like leaders, right? Hypocrites. Cognitive dissonance. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of the lies that have been told about us have been behind the scenes. And the reason is and again, now I mentioned how much of pet peeve it is when people lie. So it's one of the worst things you can do is accuse me of lying, especially if you come on my page or my platform or our platform and accuse me of lying. So it's a stupid thing to do. One, because I'm not a liar, right? I mean, not like I've never lied before, like, I'm on my way and I'm still trying to take a shower or something like that. But I don't lie about things that are important. And if I ever did, I would feel so bad that I would own it and apologize immediately, right? So when someone accuses me of lying, it rarely ends well for them. I've given out a lot of verbal smackdowns over the years when people have come at me sideways, especially when they accuse me of being a liar. So most people who accuse me of being a liar these days, or whatever it is, they do it behind the scenes where I can't see it. And therefore I can't respond. And there's nothing I can really do about that. I can't stop people from talking trash in their little side chats. There's a lot of side chat groups that people have where they talk trash. And I know my name has come up in a lot of them. To all the people doing that, though, understand that, we live in a very screenshot happy society, culture. So if you're talking trash in one of these groups, you never know if something that you say is going to be screenshotted and sent to someone you've been talking trash about, right? So like I've said often about like these so-called internet savages, don't say anything on social media that you wouldn't say to somebody's face, and that includes in one of these side chat groups. Yeah? So anyway, so I can't do anything about people talking trash. And again, I know that people have been talking trash about us for years because again, these toxic influencers have been at us. Even in our own city, we've had people, even people, who we've shown love, invested in, turn on us and start talking trash. A lot of people who are haters now or were are people we've invested in, shown love to. And then for whatever reason, they flip out on us trying to score points. And usually most of them have been influenced by the predator who I've been most critical of in the United States. But yeah, enough about that. So, lies that have been told about me. The biggest one that people say, or one of them, is that I'm arrogant. And why? I'm confident. I'm outspoken. I have a very strong personality, especially when it's something that I care about, that I'm passionate about. Did I get a message? I got a message. I'm very passionate and confident, right? And like I said, there are a lot of people out there who are insecure. But there's different types of, there are people who are insecure but can deal with their cognitive dissonance in a mature way. You know that you're lacking in some areas. You see somebody else who has something you don't have but want, or can do something, and you look up to them. You are inspired by them. That's how I am, right? If somebody's a better dancer than me, I won't try to undermine them. I will learn from them. That's what we do. That's why we become world-class instructors, because we never hated on people because they had more talent than us. If we got criticized for something, we didn't get butthurt and try to attack everybody who's ever criticized us, especially if it was constructive. And we get criticized, or more often attacked, but we get criticism all the time. And I always listen. Even when it's attacks, I listen. I try to filter out all the bullshit, because you might find a little nugget that's useful. Or maybe you just learn about what your haters are saying or what they're thinking. There's always something to be learned, right? Now, for the more toxic stuff, like my mother being disrespected, stuff like that, well, there's really not much to learn in that kind of situation, except certain people don't deserve to be supported, right? That's more consequences. But yeah, people like me who are so, and I have a presence about myself. And again, I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm just being honest, because to be authentic, you have to be truly humble. And real humility isn't this fake internet humility that you see on Facebook, where a lot of people are basically trying to pretend to be a certain way, and they're doing it because they want to be liked, because they want people to respect them or think they're good people. That's fake. For me, own your shit, good and bad. If you have talents, if you have good aspects of your personality, own them, but own the bad too, right? For instance, for me, I'm not a deceitful person. I'm not, that stuff. Like I'm a very faithful, loyal person. Those kind of stuff don't bother me. My biggest thing is I'm disorganized. That's my biggest flaw. And that's something that I'm having to work on, and I've been working on for a long time, because I am super disorganized. My mind goes every which way all the time, which is why I took some notes, right? Because I know how my brain is. I go every which way, so I'm trying to work. Now, if I was afraid to own my own flaws, I would never do stuff like this. I would just pretend that I'm perfect, and then I would never grow, right? Interestingly enough, though, a lot of the people accusing me of being arrogant are either arrogant themselves, or I've been enabling these arrogant people, like the Angolan who disrespected my wife, like half these predators out here who are truly arrogant, right? Because real arrogance is rooted in insecurity, right? You feel insecure and you're trying to compensate for it, right? Deflect and project, right? To deal with your cognitive dissonance. So you're extra with it. That's what arrogant people are. And if you hammer at an arrogant person hard enough, you will see that facade crumble. You will see the mask slip. And because I've hammered at people, a lot of people, I made a lot of people feel threatened, I have seen the mask slip on most of these people that you probably haven't seen unless you're in the position I'm in, right? So when I talk about people being shady, you might be like, well, they're always nice to me. Well, if you're a consumer, if you're a social dancer, if you're someone who puts money in their pockets or is potentially going to put money in their pocket, or someone who might support them, share their videos, share their events, share their DJ lives or whatever, yeah, they're going to be nice to you because you can give something to them, right? They can use you in some way. But if you're someone who can't do anything for them, won't do anything for them, or represent a threat to their interest, not a physical threat to their person, but a threat to their self-interest, then you see the mask slip. And that is why, for us, if you notice, we've been blacklisted a lot, right? We don't get much love from anybody in North America except for a handful of people, and even a lot of people in Europe. We get more love in Europe, actually, though, which is interesting. But yeah, why is this? Why is it that people who are good people and talented are getting hated on and not getting love from people? Well, because we've made them feel threatened, right? And I'm going to talk about that more in a second. But yeah, arrogant people don't do what I do. An arrogant person can never take constructive criticism. An arrogant person will, I don't know, have an apology that's really more of a threat and a deflection than an actual apology, right? An arrogant person will never really apologize for what they've done, right? One of the predators, a couple of them have put some yo-hos out there where they're basically, apologizing but not admitting to doing anything really wrong, projecting, deflecting, threatening people who've criticized them, right? This is what arrogant people do. Arrogant people never take responsibility. However, I've apologized to people even when I didn't do anything wrong. I've apologized to people who've disrespected me because sometimes apologies are not about being wrong. Sometimes an apology is about acknowledging how your words and actions have affected other people, right? A long time ago, when I made the video where I was talking about how if you want to be seen as a world-class instructor, you need to be fit and healthy, as someone who was not fit and healthy, right? There was some feedback that some people felt discouraged. And I said, I apologize for making you feel discouraged because I mean to empower you, not to discourage you. Now, is what I said wrong? No. But I acknowledged that my words hurt people that I didn't mean to hurt. And so I apologized. That is not something that an arrogant person would do, right? Look at the truly arrogant, toxic people out there. When have you ever seen them really apologize for anything, right? We have been disrespected. My wife's been disrespected. My mother's been disrespected. Our business, our brand. We've been disrespected 6 ways from Sunday and called everything but a child of God. Not one of them has ever apologized to us. They just double down on the wrongness. This is what arrogant people do, right? So yeah, I mean, sometimes arrogant is the last, you don't have a legitimate reason not to like somebody, so you call them arrogant because you can't justify, right? You want us to think of yourself as a good person, but here you are hating on someone who's legitimately a good person. So that doesn't jive. If you're a good person, you're not going to be hating on other good people. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and demonize this person so I feel better about myself rather than doing the self-reflection, the introspection, and the work that it takes to grow up, right? And this is the problem. Like I said, there are a lot of people who are insecure and immature. People like me are going to appear arrogant to people who are not willing to do the work to get to the point where I am emotionally. That's not all me, right? Anybody out there who's truly confident because you've done the work, because you own your shit good and bad, you will see people around you who've done the same thing. I know a lot of you can relate to this. Yeah, man. So yeah, arrogant. 2, I'm a liar, right? Now, and recently somebody said I'm a liar. I'm like, and I asked, what did I lie about specific? Crickets. Why? Go ahead, please. If anyone out there knows of something that I've lied about specifically, please message me and let me know, because I don't post anything on social media that I don't believe is true. Now, sometimes it's in regards to our advocacy on rape culture, right? Like people say I lie about, say, rape accusations or something like that. Okay. Well, first of all, I've shared a number of what I believe to be credible firsthand accounts of sexual assault. I didn't write any of them. I didn't even edit them. Oh yeah, definitely a narcissist. Oh yeah. These toxic manipulators are definitely narcissistic. It might be pathological. I don't know. but it's really, really, this gaslighting is crazy. But anyway, I haven't written any of these, accounts of sexual assault or any of that. I share them, but when I share the ones I believe are credible, and we use our platform Kizomba Unity to give a voice to people who traditionally have felt voiceless, right? I don't make this up. And people, there are people who said I tried to use this for that. The other thing is people said that our advocacy on rape culture was about self-promotion, right? One of the predators even said something like trying to promote themselves or a self-promotional agenda or make a name for themselves, stuff like this, right? And again, if you are someone who wants to believe in a bad person and you either don't know or don't like the person who's criticized them, it's easy to want to believe that the person doing the criticizing is the bad guy, right? And in a lot of these toxic cliques, when we first started speaking out against rape culture in 2016, that's what happened. The person accused as an organizer of a huge festival, it was since, not anymore, but, was someone who had a lot of influence. And we were the doom and gloom people trying to destroy the Kizomba community because it might hurt an event people wanted to go to, or because people didn't want to deal with it. And, there weren't a lot of people who were being advocates at the time, right? People, it's like, and you got to understand, now, after Me Too, right now, it's almost popular to be a rape culture advocate. Again, you have accused rapists and predators presenting themselves as rape culture advocates and leaders on this issue, right? It's popular. Even gaslighters are doing it. But in 2016, it was not popular. There were a handful of people who spoke out. None were as aggressive as we were, right? And I admit that, sometimes I was kind of ham-fisted with my advocacy. I'm not a professional advocate like Laura Tabet with Climb Against Sexual Abuse. I'm not a professional advocate like Laura Tabet, T-A-B-E-T, with Climb Against Sexual Abuse. Plug. She's an expert. I'm not. I'm just a guy who wants to do the right thing, right? So when people say stupid stuff like, oh yeah, you're just trying to get famous or make a name for yourself, ask yourself this. If I was trying to get famous or help my business by being an advocate, why would I criticize behavior that most of the organizers have been complicit in, right? And what do you think happened? I criticize behavior that most organizers have either engaged in, enabled, or looked the other way, right? So we triggered and pissed them all off, right? The result was we got blacklisted by a lot of people. Now, do we care about that? No. Our business is not set up to be dependent on organizers to have a successful business. We purposely structured our business in a way that we wouldn't have to be beholden to anybody, right? And that's why to this day, we're still here doing our thing. And when COVID's over, we'll be right back doing everything that we're doing. And our success is only going to grow. Why? Because we put out a quality product. We're consistent in what we stand for. And the people who appreciate that aren't going to be swayed by this BS, right? But people who don't know us, it's easy to be swayed. But here are the facts. Right now, speaking out against rape culture will get you likes and shares and some pats on the back. In 2016, it got you being attacked. And I was even attacked by women who were survivors, right? Because they didn't like me or whatever, wanted to attack me, right? And then some of the survivors then turn around and complain about not being believed. How are you going to complain about not being believed when you're attacking the very advocates who are trying to fight for you? Right? Very silly. But this is the kind of stuff we've dealt with. People who we're trying to help have attacked us. And yes, you can be a survivor of sexual assault and still be a part of the problem. Absolutely. Because it happens, right? And that's what happened in our experience. People, we were accused of looking for rape fame. Rape fame or whatever, it hasn't helped our business. Again, it's made it harder for us to do certain things because people have felt threatened and have tried to talk shit about us behind the scenes. So it makes no sense. Our agenda, because agenda is a word often used by some of these predators who are good manipulators, because the term agenda implies some sort of nefarious scheme. You're right, Carmen, we're not. A lot of people were attacked. You know very well because you've dealt with a lot of the same people. Agenda implies some sort of nefarious, underhanded scheme to hurt other people, right? But it's not. Our agenda is our vision. We want to build a healthy, diverse community and industry where instructors, DJs, and organizers are all held to standards on and off the dance floor, professional and otherwise, where dancers are held to standards, right? Where everybody gets dances, because we're going to talk about that in a second. Where everybody gets dances, where people don't feel marginalized, right? Where nobody feels marginalized. Where everybody treats each other with respect, and disrespect of any sort is not enabled, supported, or condoned. This is our agenda. It's on our website. We wrote a manifesto. Everything that we talk about, quality, integrity, inclusion, fun. This is our agenda, right? So if you hear people doing this, ask some more questions. Well, why exactly do you think Billy's arrogant? What has he actually lied about specifically, right? And when I say me, I'm talking about my wife too, right? How has this helped our business when we have most of the organizers in our dance community talking trash about us, not supporting us, right? It hasn't helped us. We just had to work hard, and we went directly to people. We speak our truth. People are drawn to us, and that's how we do it. And it worked out fine for us because we knew this going in. But the truth is, I did not want to be the male face or leader of the anti-rape culture movement in Kizomba. I didn't want to do this. Like, I didn't want to have to deal with all this drama and fighting, have my family disrespected, people talking trash about us left, right, and center, even personal stuff like that has nothing to do with dance. People are talking about. I didn't want to have to deal with this. I didn't want to deal with all this back and forth and fighting. I don't enjoy conflict. I don't enjoy being at odds with people. I'm just not a coward. I don't avoid conflict when I know it's necessary for the greater good. I was just a guy who wanted to do the right thing for our community. Like everything else, every time I've ever criticized a behavior, it's because it's hurt somebody. When I criticize instructors not taking the time to learn Kizomba and Semba, and by the way, when I first made one of my videos where I used a spoon as a metaphor, you can go back and check, we got attacked. People were talking shit about our dance ability or whatever because we said that and saying, oh, you don't need to learn Kizomba and Semba if you like urban. Right? Some of these same hypocrites are now parroting my language and presenting our message as their own, which would be fine if they'd apologized to us for the disrespect in the first place, but they haven't, right? And again, this is not something that hurts the community. It's just something that's a pet peeve for me because I hate disingenuousness. It's very annoying to me for people to be inauthentic, right? But I mean, a lot of people in the dance community have used language that I've used. It's okay, right? The urban as the umbrella term, bad actors and toxicity. These are all things that I was talking about and now other people are talking about too. And this is a good thing. I want that, especially if you're trying to do the right thing. But just as a personal pet peeve, but it's not that important. So you can forget about that for now. Another lie that people said is that our anti-rape stance was a personal vendetta against one predator. And the reason that this was so compelling for certain people is because it was well known that we didn't get along. Now, the story was Billy, the vindictive, shady demon or whatever, is trying to take somebody down because he doesn't like them, right? But this is a deflection, right? The only things that I really take personally are when my family is disrespected. If the worst thing you ever done was talk shit about me, I'm not too pressed about that, right? But the relevant information here isn't that I don't like someone. The relevant information is why I don't like someone. And this is because if you know me, I like almost everybody. I like people who don't like me. So if I don't like you, it's because you are human dumpster juice. And for those who don't know what dumpster juice is, it's when you see those big garbage cans and there's fermented liquid matter that congeals and kind of like leaks out the side. That's dumpster juice. It's the most disgusting substance. If I don't like you, it's because you are so toxic, disrespectful, or predatory that you've hurt people and caused damage. So if I don't like you, it's not the fact that I don't like you. It's if I say I don't like someone That should be a red flag to anybody that this is not a good person. That this person is probably someone who's hurt other people in some shape or form, right? And that is the relevant information here. But that's not what's being stored, right? The story's been truncated to make it look like I'm just some petty, vindictive person trying to hurt someone by manufacturing or going ahead with rape allegations that I don't believe. I don't know. It's bullshit, because rape to me is nothing to play with, right? I know people who've been raped, and a lot more now. This is something that I've never played with, right? But again, if you don't like me, you don't know me, or you want to believe someone you look up to, it's very easy to believe the worst of people you don't know or people you don't like, especially in favor of someone that you do look up to or you do look like, or that you have a relationship with, want to maintain a relationship with, or hope to gain a relationship with, right? All bullshit. And I said from the beginning, there is more than one predator in the Kizomba community. Even when I did my first live in 2016, I talked a lot about the big letter, right? That was circulated, and I keep circulating it, and I'll continue to circulate it because everybody needs to read it. But there was also another letter that was circulated. It's just that, there was another predator who'd harmed someone else in our community. It's just I didn't get permission to talk about it. So all I had permission to do was share the letter. So I shared the letter, and behind the scenes did what I do, which is try to support and empower victims. As ham-fisted as I may be, I try my best to help them, to support them, and try not to put too much pressure on them, but just be there for them, right? Now the other predator got called out recently by a whole bunch of different women. So now people who are all over there telling that BS that I'm just trying to go after one person, now they're probably feeling a little bit of dissonance right now because they've been lying about me this whole time. That I'm just trying to go after one person, and it was not true. I said it wasn't true, and I said it from 2016. I've been consistent, right? And it annoys me. It annoys me so much because I'm actually an honorable person trying to do the right thing, and here I am. And again, I'm talking about my own experience right now because this isn't a rape culture advocacy video. So I'm trying to do the right thing here. But you have people who are trying to harm me, even women, even survivors of sexual assault, who are coming at me sideways and trying to hinder our efforts to protect a predator. And that just shows you how ingrained some of this toxic enablement culture is in our community. It's horrible. And I said, hanging out with the wrong people, you will demonize honorable people and lift up bad people who don't care about you just to feel a part of a group that you're not really a part of anyway. It's a problem, guys. And when I talk about this cliquishness, that's why. Cliquishness itself isn't toxic. It's the toxic behaviors that are enabled. So yeah, personal vendetta. Okay. Another one. Another lie that's been promulgated is that I have beef with Palops, right? Part of the reason is a while ago, I made a video about Kizomba versus urban. And I was saying, if you don't teach urban, don't understand it, don't presume to speak on it with authority. Doesn't matter if you're Palop or not. And the reason that I did this was because at the time, again, and this was coming from, ironically enough, Angolan who disrespected my wife and one of these predators, right, who were buddy-buddy, saying things like urban, and I started using urban as an umbrella term. It has no connection. It's robotic. It's for people who can't dance Kizomba. It has no side basic. It's all choreographed. A lot of bullshit, right? And it was harmful for a number of reasons because, one, you're talking shit about something that people enjoy. And one, you're spreading false information. So not only are you talking shit, but you're making yourself look like haters. And I called them out, right? And then people were like, oh, you're disrespecting my culture. I'm like, look, we have taken the time to learn from people of the culture, and we promote it in every class we teach. Foundation is the whole base of our platform, 90% of it. And that's African Dance Foundation. We've done a better job at most to get people to respect the culture. We work with people of the culture. If you look at our events, we hire people who are Palops all the time. What we don't do is enable bad behavior because it comes from Palops. What we don't do is kiss the asses of Palops. What we don't do is look the other way if a pal-up is disrespectful or spouts some bullshit. We're not going to enable that or look the other way to kiss the ring. We're not going to do it. Does that mean that we don't like or respect pal-ups? No, that's stupid. But again, if you're in a place where toxic enablement is the standard, anyone who dares to think for themselves or have their own opinions must be against them. But this is also stuff that people were talking trash at the time. Now, again, my whole point in the urban versus kizomba was urban is not a dance, it's a style or a collection of styles. So if you want to be good at it, like the creators, you got to learn kizomba and semba, right? That was the message. And people were getting butthurt about it. Now, some of the same people talking shit back then, now you hear a lot more people saying that, don't you? But when I started saying it years ago, people were talking trash, right? And this is a problem, this inconsistency, this hypocrisy. It is a problem, guys. I'm not against pal-ups just because I'm not going to look the other way if a pal-up assaults or sexually harasses or hurts somebody. I'm not going to look the other way if a pal-up is disrespectful, not just to my wife or to me, but to anybody, because that makes us all look bad, right? If you're a representative of a culture, you should be holding yourself to as high a standard as I hold myself, because you're representing the culture more than I am. Because I'm not of the culture. You are. So everyone who says culture or is projecting the culture, you should be holding yourself to a high standard. And just because I do that, that doesn't mean I'm against you. That actually means that I'm for you, because I want people to want to learn more about the culture. I want people to engage and invest more, because that helps everybody, right? Especially when you're learning a cultural art form. But that's the bullshit that we've dealt with. And last, recently, it came to my attention that people are trying to insinuate or say that I'm against black women. Now, this is why that's super stupid. For years, there have been conversations, and I'm talking about this because I know there are black women who are concerned that because sexual assault has become the topic du jour, that their concerns about being marginalized are going to be pushed by the wayside. I tell you, as far as we're concerned, they're not. Now, in our sphere of influence, like I said, we don't have this issue because we've built an inclusive community. So black women in our sphere of influence, in our community, don't feel like they're being passed over left and right or not appreciated. And you can ask people who actually support our events and support us if we've ever made them feel marginalized or if they feel marginalized in our sphere of influence. And the answer is going to be no, for the most part, because we care, right? Monica and I have, and I say this, a lot of it's popular now to be performative and talk about supporting black women, right? A lot of people are doing it now. Black women. But some of these same people, and I'm not saying this to knock anybody, but what I'm saying is, years ago, before it was popular to talk about these things, Monica and I were always dancing with the people who were not getting dances. The people who are not getting dances are usually the black people, black women, bigger women, older women, beginners. And if you're all four, then you're bottom of the barrel at a lot of places. And and it's not because we're just like, we're only going to dance with black women. It's because we dance with the people who are being overlooked, because that's what we feel social dancing is about, right? If you want to be inclusive, then you need to dance with everybody, focusing on the people who are not dancing. So Monica has danced with and Monica as a woman has danced with more of these black women than a lot of these guys who are now trying to be performative, right? But yet and still, because I don't enable toxicity when it comes in a melanated female package, there are people who are trying to insinuate that I'm against black women. As an example, I recently made a video where I said, basically, that if you feel that you are being marginalized, and I said it to the professionals, to the people who want to be teachers, DJs, organizers, whatever, not to the dancers, because it is beyond a shadow of a doubt, black women are marginalized on the social dance floor in all social dances, period. Anybody who tries to say otherwise, you need to open your eyes. And it needs to be addressed and talked about, and people need to do things about it, period. So I put that to the side, because again, that's something that in our sphere of influence, it may not be as much of an issue, but it is in most places, okay? But I had to distinguish the professionals, because there are a group of professionals who are always talking about, you need to hire us and we need to, but they're toxic and disrespectful, right? person who disrespected my mother on one of my lives, disrespected live, said she had dementia, right? Said, when are you going to get your titty out of his mouth? Someone who is super toxic has become one of the more outspoken people on this issue. But you have other black women enabling and supporting her. Again, how can you in good faith think or try to argue that the reason you're not getting hired or booked is because of your race and gender when you are disrespectful and nasty and toxic? Or you're someone enabling, supporting, and condoning people like this, knowing damn well that they're toxic. Because as an organizer, I look at you and I say you're a hypocrite and you're part of the problem. And not only that, but you're causing harm to the black women who are legitimately being marginalized because you guys are doing all this, but you're not holding yourselves accountable. And I'm talking about the people who are disrespectful and toxic right now. If you want to be respected, then you have to respect other people. And you can't enable people who are disrespectful, period. Does that mean I'm against black women? Obviously not. I have shown love to black women from day one, and I'm not married to a black woman, and yet I'm always singing the praises of black women. And Monica not only doesn't care, she supports it because she understands how important it is, especially as a black man, especially as someone who is not with a black woman, because often men who marry or date women who aren't black often try to shit on black women to justify their own self-hate, right? I realize that it's important to hear from as many black men as possible. And so I always make it a point to show love. I made a video a few years ago where I talked about how I understand and I stand with black women. And you know what happened? There were a lot of women who showed support and appreciated the message, and it was great. But there are a few who came at me sideways, real disrespectful and nasty and dismissive when I was trying to show love. Now, again, if I'm trying to show you love and advocate for you and support you, and it's clear that with our platform we've done so, why are you hating or being nasty to me? And that's the saddest thing. Some of the people who've been most disrespectful to us are people who belong to groups that we've advocated for, black women and women. Now, I say this is only a very small amount of black women, okay? And I say this because it's very important for me to let everybody who's watching know who don't understand what I'm talking about. This is not about all black women, okay? There are toxic people in every demographic. And black women as a whole are some of the most kind, warm, welcoming people I've ever met. And I'm not going to use the tired, I have a black mother and I have a black daughter, because you can have a black mother and a black daughter and still be a self-hating Negro who doesn't show love to black women, right? It's very important for me to say that because I don't want anybody to take this message and misconstrue it for anything but what it is. Me criticizing a relatively small group of people who have engaged in and enabled toxic behavior, not just at us, but at other people too. And I criticize you because you deserve to be criticized, because you have not held your own people accountable, and then you turn around and complain that you're not being respected. And if you feel like I'm talking about you, I am. Because not only does it make you look bad, it makes all of us look bad. And it makes it more difficult for organizers to pick through and see who's toxic and who's not. And this is what happens when you have people trying to be seen as advocates who are toxic. Whereas on one hand, being an advocate, the more people who advocate, the better. On the other hand, when some of the people being the loudest are also part of the problem, it makes it harder for everybody who's actually trying to be a part of the solution, right? So yeah, people out there trying to say that I'm against black women, that's bullshit. I am not. I'm just not going to support or enable or condone toxicity just because it comes in a melanated female package. If you are white, black, female, big, short, small, I don't give a shit. Wrong is wrong, and I'm not going to support wrongness. And anyone who wants to be a part of a healthy community, you shouldn't support wrongness either. Let's see. So yeah, as I mentioned before, the reason I'm not naming people who I've talked to, and because there have been a few people who've reached out to me over the years and we've had conversations. Being friendly to us or supporting us sometimes can make you unpopular, especially if you unpopular in groups where people who hate us are prevalent, right? There are cities, there are regions where our haters are prevalent, and it's because the leaders in those groups are some of the toxic, shady, manipulative, insecure people who I have criticized, right? And that's just how it goes. But if you're in some of those locations and you've heard a lot of BS or trash talking about us, I invite you to talk to me, send me a message, and ask me. I will be honest with you. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. But what you won't hear is that I've ever misused anyone, that I've ever disrespected anyone, unless I'm calling out somebody who's been disrespectful to others or harmed people. You won't hear about me doing anything dishonest or disreputable. You sure as hell won't hear about me engaging in any behavior disrespecting my wife. You sure as hell won't hear that shit. I'm an honorable man. But I'm not perfect, and I'll own my shit. So again, if I've said something to hurt your feelings or whatever, talk to me. You know, I hold myself accountable. I've sometimes been a little bit more harsh with people than maybe than I could have. Believe it or not, this is me sugarcoating a little bit. This is me not being as harsh as I could be. I'm a man of hard truths. And I try to soften the blow a little bit because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. But, I've been doing this for 20 years. So, hard truths are like a warm sauna for me. Whereas someone who's not used to this, it might feel like you're in boiling water. So if I've ever said anything to hurt your feelings or there's something you want to know, feel free to hit me up. If the worst thing you've ever done is talk shit about me, I mean, you could just apologize and we'll be buds again. If you've disrespected my family, apologize to them and get your behavior together, and it's cool. I'm not somebody to hold grudges, contrary to popular belief. I just don't take people's shit, man. I'm 40 years old. I'm 40 years old. And you got to understand something about me, man. I am in a good place now. I'm happier than I've ever been. I have a family. I have a business that's growing. We have a great future ahead of us, knock on wood. But I've been through some shit in my life. I've worked at one of the most prestigious law firms in the world, making good money, but I've also been unemployed and depressed. Right? I've been in great relationships and I've been kicked to the curb, sad because I got kicked to the curb. I've been through good times and I've been through bad times. I've hurt and been hurt. I've made mistakes, but I always own my shit. And through all the stuff I've been through, I made it through. And when people go through a lot of shit and they make it through sane, they tend to make it through wiser and stronger. And so I'm basically just trying to drop some knowledge on you guys in this video, because it's smart to learn from your mistakes, but it's wise to learn from the mistakes of others. So if you can get the knowledge and the wisdom without going through the bullshit, why shouldn't you, right? So for those of you in our community who want to be, if you want to be your own person, you don't want to be knee deep in one of these cliques. You don't want to have to do or be or think a certain way just because people in your clique think that way. Those are the people who are going to most appreciate what we're trying to build, because what we're building is a community of individuals. I don't want anyone to blindly follow us or do what we say. Hell, even my own students be roasting my ass sometimes. Because like I said, I'm disorganized, so my mind, I get distracted. In class, I get distracted all the time. My students be roasting the shit out of me. And it's okay. If you spent any time around us, you would see that I am not arrogant. Because arrogant teachers don't have their students roasting them. But I get roasted. And I don't take it personally, especially if it's true. I am scatterbrained sometimes. That's why I have these notes. So yeah. If you want to be a part of the solution, one, join the Kizomba Unity Group. And I'm promoting this Kizomba Unity Group. It's not a self-promotional group. It's not a Kizomba Harmony group. It's a discussion group. No promotional spam. And even, sometimes you gotta, and the last kind of person I'll talk about before I end are colonizers, okay? And I know there's some people who get butthurt about the term colonizer because there's some racial undertones. All colonizers are not white people. But colonizers are the people who want to take, or they want to build off your back, right? So we are very wary about people because we've come into contact with people over the years who they don't support us, but they want to use our platform to build their own, right? or they want to build their whatever they want to build on our backs, right? And we've had this happen a lot. So people out there in the community, be very careful, because this is another type of toxic manipulator. And a lot of these predators are also colonizers too. And that's what they do. Like, they see that you build a little community, so they'll go to your city and then they'll say, okay, this is my person. I'll tap you. You're not, so I'm going to attack you. This happened in Houston, right? Some of these toxic manipulators tapped certain groups and certain people in Houston and said, you're our people, and Kizomba Harmony is not. So we ended up getting haters, and some of them ended up leaving the community, which is convenient for us. But it took years for this shit to resolve itself, all because of these outside influences who came in talking, oh yeah, and people believed that BS, right? And so here I am in 2014, 15, thinking everything is kumbaya. I was so innocent in a sense. I knew that there are toxic manipulators in the world, but I didn't realize that there are so many in the dance community, because I thought dance was something to bring people together and make people happy and things like that. Well, little did I know. Little did I know. But we all learn, yeah? And I don't want you guys, especially if you're trying to be in a position of influence or a leader, and I'm not just talking about DJs, instructors, organizers, anyone who takes a stand, and this is important, and this is a big part of what I'm trying to say in this video. Anyone watching this video can become a leader. It doesn't matter if you want to be a teacher, DJ, organizer, right? There are sometimes efforts to get the organizers and instructors to do stuff, but the truth is, there's just a small number of us. The reason that our community is the way it is, it's not just because of the people in positions of influence abusing the power. It's because of the communities who've enabled them. So if all of you stand up right now, become individuals, start thinking for yourself, right? If somebody tells you something, question it, including me, right? Ask why. If someone's talking trash about somebody, ask for specifics, ask why. If someone has talked trash about me to you, come to me and talk to me about it. I promise you, I will not lie, because that's part of it. You have to find people who are honest. And the sad truth is, there are so few people in our community who are actually honest, because they're more interested in looking good than being good. I don't care about looking good. Clearly, when people will say that I do stuff just for Facebook likes, look on my page. Look at all the hard truths I post, all the people I've triggered and pissed off. Do you think that if I was a liar, I would be so unpopular in some of these groups as I am? No, I'd be super popular if I was a liar. I'm very well spoken. If I was a liar and well spoken, I could bullshit you from here to the moon. But I'm not. Something to think about. So yeah. If you're in one of those locations where our haters or minions are in positions of influence, again, try talking to me instead of about me, right? Hit me up. Ask me. I'll answer whatever questions that aren't too crazy, okay? I'm not answering like weird stuff, but anything you want to know or you heard, go ahead. The reason that I know about some of the stuff that I talked about is because people came and asked me about it or talked to me about it. That's the only reason I know. I still don't know most of the lies that have been told about us over the years. I know that there are people who managed to turn previous students against us, people who we've shown love to, right? I don't know. I don't know what people have said. So if there's something you want to know, go to the source. Yeah. Always think of the source. I think right now it's becoming very clear that there are some disreputable people in our community. And the truth is, there's no reason right now. There's no reason when we have so many talented instructors, DJs, dancers, organizers who are not bad people. I mean, you don't even have to be like where we are. We don't really want to mess with people who don't have legit integrity. But I've supported events before hosted by people who I don't really believe have integrity, but they're not evil. And it's important for me to support events, especially if it's local to me, unless they're really toxic. Because supporting these events sets a good example, and having events is part of what helps us build the industry. It creates excitement. So we have often made it a point to support events organized by people who've hated on us, right? Even people who've hated on us and have not apologized. Why? Because that's what leaders do. It would be nice for the people who've come at us sideways to be mature adults and apologize, but I don't hold out any hope. But at the same time, you never know. Part of me is a practical, and part of me is an optimist. So I guess I'm a practical optimist. But yeah, for you guys out there, whatever you hear, always question it. Unless it's a survivor sharing her firsthand account with you. And I said sharing her story. Okay? That's important. For us, you have to, if you want us to advocate for you, then you have to trust us and we have to trust you. But if a survivor comes to you and shares her story in good faith, that is the one time where, yes, believe her. And that is the one situation where I do ask you to take my word for it, because I can't give certain details about survivors unless they give me permission to. So if I say I have a credible firsthand source, I can't tell you, for instance, who the survivor is, right? That would be wrong on so many levels. I can't do that. But I can say things like, I have, this has been verified by us. We have every reason to believe this is true. I know information that leads me to believe that this is especially true, things like that. And I ask you to take my word for it. But in order to do that, I have to develop that trust with you. And that is why over my entire career, I've made it a point to always be consistent and act with integrity, because that's the only way that people are going to trust us. And I want our community to trust us, just like I want us to be able to trust you, right? Trust you to take everything you hear about us with a grain of salt. Trust you to come to me if you have an issue with me or a question, right? That trust has to be both ways. So, yeah, I think that's all I had to say. I appreciate you guys listening to this live. I hope that it's been beneficial for you. I hope I've answered some questions that you may have, or maybe there's some things that you didn't know about me. I always, and I said it in the conversation that I had that kind of inspired me to make this video. Look, you could be a hater today and a friend tomorrow, right? If the worst thing you ever did was talk a little shit about me, it's cool. Just come talk to me, apologize, be an adult, and we cool. I'm too happy and too blessed to be holding on to these bullshit ass petty grudges. It's not a good look. It's not who I am. Now, if you're a predator who's harmed people, it's not me who you need to make things right with. It's the people you've harmed. And until you do that, well, I don't want anyone who's harmed others in this community. In our sphere of influence, they're already canceled. I can't cancel people outside of our sphere of influence. All I can do is speak my truth, hoping to inspire others to do the same, hoping that my truth will resonate with people and empower people who want to build and do what we're doing. And that's what's happened, and it makes me feel very good. So everybody out there who's been a part of the solution, thank you. Please join the Kizoma Unity group if you want to be a part of the solution and talk about these issues and all kind of stuff. You have to answer questions to me in the group. It's only 3. It's not hard. I'll put the link in there in the description. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks everybody for joining me in this live. If I've triggered or insulted or made anybody mad, feel free to talk to me about it respectfully. Yeah, let's continue working to create a community where everybody feels welcome, where professionals are held to a high standard on and off the dance floor, regardless of where they're from, what their culture is, what their color is, where nobody feels marginalized because of their race, gender, for whatever reason, where organizers are fair in their hiring. And that doesn't mean hiring people just because they're in a demographic, no. That means not overlooking people who have talent because of that demographic, right? Where everybody operates with integrity, and when people fall short, they're held accountable by the community, where everybody dances with everybody, where people respect the culture, but without trying to assimilate or kiss the asses of people in that culture, because that's a very important distinction. But where people of the culture can look at the community and say, okay, these are people who are not trying to shit on our community. That's important, because this is a cultural dance. And for us, even though we're urban dancers too, that's also important to us, because for us, it's important to respect the roots. A community where I can have my daughter around and not have to feel worried, because there aren't a lot of events right now where I feel comfortable having my daughter and leaving her to play, because there's too many shady people. And I'm not saying that they're pedophiles, but they're people who will look the other way if something bad happens if it doesn't affect them. I want all events to be like ours, where they're family friendly. If you want to do the grown folks route, you can do that too. That's the future. The future of Kizomba is consistency, integrity, quality, or as we like to say, quality, integrity, inclusion, fun. That is the future of Kizomba. Mark my words. I said in 2016 that these predators, their time is, the clock is ticking. 2020, I was right. I tell you now, what I'm talking about here is the future of Kizomba. And if you want to be a part of it, you first have to do a little bit of reflection. Make sure that you're not a part of the problem in any of the issues facing our community. Then we can move forward. To everybody who's had issues with me or questions or whatever, like I said, if the worst thing you ever did was talk a little shit about me on the internet, I don't have any hate in my heart for you. Apologize like a grown-up and we can be friends. Or don't, and I still won't have any beef with you. I just won't respect you or trust you, but no beef. If you've disrespected my family, make things right, or, well, anyway, back to the positive. Hope you guys have appreciated or found value in this video. I'm starting to ramble now. That's why I had this. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And yeah, understand that my criticisms here, this is not about me being negative. I do this because I care about our community. If I didn't care about the community, I'd say screw it and just let it all burn down. Our sphere of influence is fine. We'll be okay. But I care about this community, and I want to inspire and empower people out there who want to do the same kind of thing that we're doing. To everybody out there who is fighting the good fight, and I'm not mentioning any names because I don't want to make anybody more of a target, but everybody who's fighting legitimately and in good faith against rape culture, against marginalization of black women, of women, who's standing up for people in our community, I thank you, I respect you, and if there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. And with that, I'm gonna say peace out. If you guys found value in the video, please feel free to share it. I know it's pretty dense, there's a lot of stuff, but yeah. Anybody who kind of wants to get to know us and what we stand for, this is a good place to start. So with that, I say adieu. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.